Hello, I'm the Doctor. Welcome to DoctorGeek. Today, we're doing a recap and review of Series 11, Episode 2, The Ghost Monument. The episode picks up right where we left off, with the new TARDIS team floating helplessly in space. As the camera pans out from Ryan's eye reflecting the universe, a ship appears out of hyperjump and scoops him and Graham up. The two of them regain consciousness on board the spaceship and meet the pilot, Angstrom, who is approaching the final planet of something called the Rally of the 12 Galaxies. Angstrom is convinced that Ryan and Graham are bonuses for the race, which is why she picked them up in the first place, and she refuses to believe their denials. Meanwhile, Yaz and the Doctor have also been scooped up by a spaceship, but theirs is piloted by a man named Epso, and their spaceship is crashing onto the final planet. It seems this planet is not where it should be, which is what caused the Doctor to end up in space in the first place, and it's also caused Epso's ship to run out of fuel before reaching it. While Yaz freaks out in the background, the Doctor convinces Epso to jettison the back of his spaceship in order to create enough momentum to reach the planet. Meanwhile, Angstrom, Ryan, and Graham step out onto the desert planet, named Desolation, and they only take a few steps before they're almost killed as Epso's ship crashes right next to them. The Doctor exits, and now that she's reunited with her friends, she quickly apologizes to them for bringing them here, and promises to get them back home. As Angstrom and Epso argue, they soon discover that they are the only two people left in the rally out of 4,000, and they make their way to a tent in the middle of the desert, while the Doctor and friends follow behind. Inside, they meet a man named Ilan, in hologram form, who is behind this race, and after he informs Angstrom and Epso that the Doctor and friends are not bonuses and are not part of the rally, he gives them their final instructions. Cross the terrain, survive the planet, make your way to the other side of the mountains, and the first one to get to the site marked as the Ghost Monument will be crowned the winner and transported off the planet with enough money to live very happily for the rest of their days. No sabotage, no injuries, no killing each other, or face instant disqualification. He also warns them not to travel at night and to not even touch the water, as the entire planet has been made cruel. As Angstrom and Epso start their challenge, the Doctor continues to badger Ilan for more details, and at her insistence, he shows her what the Ghost Monument looks like. Sure enough, it's her TARDIS. With this new motivation, the Doctor once again promises her friends that she will get them home, and they catch up with Angstrom and Epso. They come across a boat that will take them across the deadly water, which the Doctor tells them is filled with flesh-eating microbes, but it's broken. They agree that if they can get the boat working, they will all take it across together, and Angstrom and Epso begrudgingly agree. As Ryan and Graham take a look at the engine, they have a heart-to-heart about the death of Ryan's grandmother, Grace, and Graham tells Ryan that he plans to look out for him. Ryan notices that the engine looks like a solar cell, and the Doctor agrees, helping them to get it working once again. The group of 6 make their way across the water on the boat, and while they wait, Epso tells the story of how his mother tricked him into jumping out of a tree to teach him not to trust anyone, breaking his arm and ankle in the process. The group is predictably horrified by this, and they now understand part of why Epso is so cruel. But the Doctor tells him that his mother was wrong and that they're stronger together. As Epso sleeps, Angstrom confides in them that her planet Albar is being systematically cleansed, and that she needs the money to try and save her family, assuming that they are still alive. On the other side of the water, the group comes across some old ruins, and the Doctor wonders where all of the people have gone, as she can see that besides the microbes, they are the only living people on this entire planet. Inside the ruins, they run into robotic guards. Luckily for them, they're not fully active, but before they can make their escape, Epso foolishly shoots one, which causes the robots to become hostile and forces the Doctor and friends to run for their lives, running in zigzags to prevent the robots from predicting their movements. When they come across a downed robot, Ryan takes its gun with a plan to shoot his way out of the ruins, but the Doctor tells him that guns aren't the answer and that they should try to outthink their enemies. However, Ryan doesn't take this advice, and while he is initially successful, the robots can't be stopped by the gun, and he quickly makes a retreat. After she chastises Ryan, the Doctor picks up a power cell from the downed robot and uses it to cause an electromagnetic pulse, temporarily disabling all of the robots and giving them time to escape. The Doctor uses Angstrom's tracker to locate a hatch inside the ruins, and they make their way through it and down a ladder, which Ryan is very unhappy about as he's had to face his fear of heights again so soon after the last time. Underground, they find a massive tunnel system, and the Doctor again wonders what happened to the civilization who built them. As they continue to explore, they find a message written on the tunnel floor. It says that the people who built the tunnels were abducted, tortured, and made to work to find new ways of destruction, while their families were held hostage. Their work left the planet scorched and barren, but they were forced to do it by the Stenza, the same race that the Doctor just defeated on Earth, and the same race that has tormented Angstrom's home planet. Meanwhile, as the Doctor finishes her translation, Epso is attacked by flying rags that try to suffocate him, before Angstrom cuts him free. The Doctor realizes that this is the reason they were warned not to travel at night, as the rags were seen lying dormant during the day, and they all make a run for it. As the robot guards come back online and shut off the life support systems, they are forced to use a ladder to make their way back up to the surface, which is covered in acetylene gas. They are all quickly surrounded by the flying rags, but as the Doctor distracts them by keeping them talking, she covertly instructs her friends to start to dig holes in the sand, and when she gives them the signal, Graham grabs a cigar from Epso's belt and hurls it into the air, lighting the acetylene gas on fire. And as the Doctor and friends fall to the ground to take cover in their holes, the rags burn to a crisp. As the sun rises, the group reaches the location of the Ghost Monument, but much to the Doctor's disappointment, the TARDIS is nowhere to be seen. Angstrom and Epso argue between themselves as to who should win the tournament, and at the Doctor's suggestion, they enter the final 10 together, claiming the prize for the both of them. After Ilan begrudgingly accepts to split the prize between the two of them, he scoffs at being asked to teleport the Doctor and friends off the planet, and in an instant, Ilan, Angstrom, Epso, and the tent that they were just in disappear, leaving the TARDIS team stranded. Dejected, the Doctor tells her companions that they will be dead soon, and they have no hope of getting off the planet. But in a strange role reversal, her companions won't let her give up, and sure enough, the sound of the TARDIS begins to drift through the air. The Doctor uses her sonic to stabilize the TARDIS, and she quickly runs to it, marveling at its new appearance. And as she steps inside, she is delighted at its new interior. As Ryan, Yaz, and Graham join her in the TARDIS, they marvel at it as well, but strangely, we are deprived of hearing them remark that it's bigger on the inside. The Doctor tells them that it's a spaceship, and a time ship, which pleases Ryan to no end, and promising to get them home, she goes about starting up her new TARDIS, equipped with some pretty new features, including a biscuit dispenser. The TARDIS disappears from the planet of desolation, and Ryan, Yasmin, and Graham get started on what I'm sure will be many adventures through space and time. And now, before my review, here are the episode's most memorable lines.
Hi. I can smell burning.
She's the envy of millions.
Really?
Yes.
Sorry, Az, I forgot you were there. All gonna be fine. Are we gonna die? One day, yes, comes to us all. This ship is old school. I'm good at old school. By the way, welcome Welcome to what I presume is your first alien planet. Don't touch anything. Audrey Hepburn or Pythagoras?
Hey, Pythagoras never wore shades.
Obviously never saw him with a hangover. Do you two know what that is?
It's a tent.
Oh, I love a good hologram. I was a hologram once for 3 weeks. The gossip I picked up. Those are excellent nose hairs.
Who are these people?
And then it all went quite badly wrong, actually. These three have been very good not going on about it. It's here.
What, the old police box? Didn't look all that.
It's very all that, thank you very much.
Yeah, well, maybe I don't play by the rules.
Did you practice those lines in the mirror?
Where's the reload? Where's the reload? Where's the reload?
How did you even do that? Did I not mention? I am really smart. Come to Daddy. I mean, Mummy. I mean...
Okay, so overall, I thought this episode was much weaker than the first one. And I'll go into why in just a moment. But first, let's focus on what I liked about the episode. Now, of course, Jodie once again delivers a fantastic performance, and it really is a joy to watch her play the character of the Doctor. At this point, she has already taken over the role completely, and I have no trouble believing her as the Doctor. She is authoritative, smart, funny, and cunning, and I enjoyed her in this episode even more than the first, now that she's over her post-regeneration hiccups. Also, the nod to the third Doctor with the mention and use of Venusian Aikido was very much appreciated, and I hope that we see the 13th Doctor use more of it in the future. In fact, if she does, I'd like to make a video about the history of Venusian Aikido in the series. As for the guest stars of this episode, I thought both Susan Lynch and Sean Dooley did a great job as Angstrom and Epso, with Susan Dooley in particular really putting in a great performance. In fact, a lot of what I didn't like about this episode had to do with the fact that the guest stars were really not getting enough to do, and the premise of a space rally could have been done so much better than what we got in this episode. Both of these actors were very believable in their roles, and they did a good job of conveying the motivations behind their characters entering into this space rally. I think it's possible that we may run into one or both of these characters again in the future, and I'd honestly be happy to see them again. Now, unfortunately, that's all I can really say positively about this episode, because honestly, I think it had a lot of problems. First off, Ryan, Yasmin, and Graham are painfully underutilized in this episode, and when they do get something to do, the dialogue is forced and strange. Now, this has nothing to do with the actors themselves, it's really more of a detriment to the writing. Once again, the character of Yaz was given almost no development, and we still know almost nothing about her after 2 episodes other than the fact that she's a police officer. She spends the first 10 minutes of this episode complaining about how she's going to die, which doesn't really strike me as companion behavior, even if this was her first trip. And for the remainder of the episode, all she does is talk to Ryan about the Doctor and make him more comfortable with his fear of heights. So basically, she does exactly what she did in episode 1. Although I did like her facial expressions when she first realized she was in space. Ryan and Graham don't fare much better in the writing department, as once again, we have to deal with their strange animosity towards each other that has never been explained. In fact, at one point, Graham seems insulted that Ryan won't call him Granddad, even though it seems like this has always been the case even before Ryan's grandmother died. So it really shouldn't come as a surprise to Graham that Ryan is referring to him by his first name. Once again, I'll just reiterate how strange it is that Ryan would still view Graham so negatively after years married to his grandmother Grace. This problem is actually compounded by the fact that when they aren't fighting, Ryan and Graham have a very good rapport with each other. So why they continue to push this animosity is a mystery to me, especially when they continue to underdevelop Yaz. Now, pretty much every other gripe I have about this episode has to do with the storyline, which honestly had a lot of promise but ended up being so seriously let down. First off, the whole crashing sequence in the beginning of this episode was pointless, time-consuming, and confusing, as we are told multiple times that the planet has moved out of its orbit, but we are never told why. This is important because it's the basis for everything in the beginning of this episode. It's the reason why the Doctor and friends appeared in space, and it's the reason that Epso's ship crashes. Yet we never find out what exactly caused this planet to move out of its orbit. And we certainly don't find out how it could have happened between the Doctor locating the TARDIS with her machinery and hitting the teleport button. Now, maybe Ilyn will come back into play at some point and this will all be explained, but for now, it's a confusing loose end that was written as a plot device, and quite frankly, it makes no sense. In fact, the crashing sequence itself takes up so much time that I honestly think the episode would be better without it completely. Imagine if the Doctor and friends had teleported into the middle of the desert on this deserted planet, and then, as they start to explore, they see two ships hurtling towards them on a collision course for the planet. That would have been much more exciting and a much better way to introduce these characters quickly into the episode, leaving much more time for character and plot development. And it would have saved a lot of confusion. Also, just to mention it, when Angstrom, Ryan, and Graham are running from the crashing spaceship, they could easily avoid the ship by running a few feet to either side. But instead, they run in exactly the same direction that the ship is already traveling and should have died had not the Doctor pulled up at the last moment. So, really just very stupid. Continuing through the episode, I couldn't help but feel that none of the dangers of this planet had much of a payoff. First we hear that you shouldn't drink or touch the water, and later the Doctor tells us that it's full of flesh-eating microbes. But we never see what happens when you touch the water, so it just kind of feels like a pointless detail. Either way, they would have needed a boat to get across the water, so who cares if it's deadly or not? It never seemed like that big of an obstacle to get past, and it has no real basis on the overall plot of the story in the least. Next, we come to meet the robot guards, which were heavily teased in the trailers. And not only are they quickly and easily defeated, but despite being robots that can apparently track people's projected movements, they don't manage to hit a single person, save for Epso, who was the one who shot it in the first place. Now, when we saw this scene in the trailers, I commented on how silly it was that none of these people were hitting the targets that they were aiming at. But now hearing that they were robots, that just seems even more ridiculous. Either way, they're quickly done away with, and we move on to our next and last obstacle, the flying rag monsters. Now, maybe this was a better idea on paper, but the Doctor's insistence on finding out what happened to the original inhabitants of this planet was kind of annoying, given the fact that it didn't have much of a bearing on the episode except to reference the monster from the previous week. But even with the explanation that the Stenza forced the natives to find new ways of destruction, I don't understand how that leads to creating flying sentient rags. Not only do they not make much sense, they aren't scary, and they are, once again, easily done away with and quickly forgotten. It just seems like nothing in this episode had any real weight to it, and the explanations that we were given for them seemed lazy and random. Not to mention that the whole concept of the episode was that it was a space race, and at no point were Angstrom and Epso really racing each other, with even at the end, Angstrom admitting that she could beat Epso by running to the tent, but refusing to do it out of honor. So it really seems like a wasted opportunity. At the end, as Angstrom and Epso are teleported away, the Doctor seems to give up, resigning herself to a death on an alien planet with her 3 brand new companions. And that just does not sound like the Doctor to me, especially when her companions are the ones trying to convince her not to give up. To me, that just seemed very out of character for the Doctor. But perhaps we can still attribute this to some post-regenerative personality funk. Lastly, I get that Chibnall wants to change things up, but not having any of the new companions remark on how the TARDIS is bigger on the inside robbed us of one of the best things about getting a new companion, and that's not very nice. After a 2-episode build-up, the companions really didn't seem terribly amazed by the TARDIS, outside of Ryan, and it just strained credibility a little bit, similar to last week in how Ryan and Graham seemed perfectly fine after just coming from Grace's funeral. The reactions just don't seem to line up. Still, Chris Chibnall is known for his character development, so I'm really hoping that these issues work themselves out as the series progresses. So, for a story with a lot of potential in story and characters that ultimately buries itself with lazy writing and silly explanations, I give The Ghost Monument 5 robot guards out of 10. So, that was my recap and review for Series 11, Episode 2. Don't forget to like and subscribe for new videos every week, and ring the bell so you don't miss my next video. Let me know in the comments what your favorite part of this episode was, and leave me some ideas for videos that you'd like to see in the future. As always, thank you for being my companions on this journey today. I'm the Doctor. Bye for now.